Adventure Time. Created by Pendleton Ward and first airing on April 5th, 2010, this series is undoubtedly one of Cartoon Network's biggest hits, creating lasting memories for a generation of kids. One of the coolest aspects of the show was the interconnected nature of each episode, meaning that details from earlier episodes or even seasons could come back for a reference or a plot point. One of these examples, and probably the biggest merchandising output from the show, was Card Wars. Today we'll look at the full history of Card Wars, from the episodes it appeared in, video games, and physical merchandise. The very first time Card Wars is mentioned is in episode 14 of season 4, self-titled Card Wars. In this episode, Jake is moping because Lady Rainicorn won't play Card Wars with him because he always beats her at it. Finn likes the sound of it and challenges Jake to a game. However, BMO warns Finn that he does not play such games
with Jake.
After spending 2 entire hours explaining the rules, the battle begins. Jake's strategy looks unbeatable until Finn discovers he can floop the pig. This is definitely the most iconic aspect of this episode, as Finn's pig is able to eat away at Jake's cornfields, which most of his deck requires for its power. After 2 incredibly successful turns where Finn leaves Jake with basically no cards to play with, Jake becomes very irritable, concerning Finn. Finn then excuses himself and goes to talk to BMO, who reveals that Jake is an extremely sore loser when it comes to Card Wars, not talking to BMO for an entire month after being beaten. BMO tells Finn that he needs to lose the game on purpose so Jake's feelings won't get hurt. After being dragged back to the table, Finn begins his plan to throw the game. Finn sends out the pig to attack, which then gets stuck in Jake's mud landscape, allowing Jake to play a few final cards and steal the win. Finn, as the loser, then has to drink from the Dweeb mug, made up of soda, coffee grounds, beetle butter, grape jelly, kimchi, and ham chunk juice. This episode is just so much fun to watch. The game itself is presented in a really fun way that I'm sure had countless fans wanting to play it. I know I did, as I recently found a bunch of homemade cards that I must have made after watching this episode. It was also received extremely well, as critics applauded that it felt exactly like jumping into an overcomplicated game with a far more experienced competitor. The fans loved it too, with the episode ranking as number 1 on the day it was released by the Nielsen rating system. Of course, Cartoon Network noticed the popularity and set about capitalizing on it. This episode was so special to me as a kid. In fact, I can distinctly recall a car ride where me and my brother discovered we could quote this episode pretty much line for line from start to finish. Sorry Dad, I'm sure that was very annoying to hear. After the success of the Season 4 episode, Cartoon Network worked with American video game developer Kung Fu Factory to release the Card Wars app on February 8th, 2014. This game was exactly what the fans wanted, a super addicting version of the Card Wars game depicted in the episode for them to play. The game featured a quest campaign mode where players could enjoy 120 levels facing off against a whole cast of different Adventure Time characters. Quests could be beaten up to 3 times with different star conditions to earn 3 stars, where players would receive a gem for their troubles. Deck Wars, which was a tournament mode lasting 2 weeks for each tournament. In this mode you would face off against other players' real decks. However, this would be a computer playing with the cards and not a live service card battle. Players earn and lose trophies by competing in these Deck Wars battles, and then at the end of the 2 weeks the rankings will be totaled up and the player in first place of that bracket would earn one of these super rare black cards. Players from 2nd place to 10th place would earn 1 gold card. Black and gold cards are the rarest cards in the Card Wars app, as black cards could only be earned from placing first in Deck Wars, while gold cards could be opened from the algebraic chest, but extremely rarely. Other features players could enjoy were the Daily Dungeons of Doom, which were daily events where all of the card drops from the battles taking place in the dungeons would be of a specific faction, these being the Dungeon of Madness on Mondays, dropping Blue Plains cards, the Dungeon of Terror on Tuesdays, dropping Cornfields cards, the Dungeon of Weird on Wednesdays, dropping Useless Swamp cards, the Dungeon of Thirst on Thursdays, dropping Nice Lands cards, the Dungeon of Fear on Fridays, dropping Sandyland cards, and the Spooky Dungeon and Scary Dungeon on Saturday and Sunday, dropping 2 times coins and 2 times XP. This roster of dungeons would then repeat at the start of the week, creating a perfect opportunity for players to plan out when to start grinding if they're after specific cards of a faction. In addition, weekly events called Card Wars Carnivals would also sometimes occur, which increase the chances of certain cards being dropped by opening chests, these being the Corn Carnival, Plains Party, Hero Card Carnival, Nice Lands Jubilee, Swamp Shindig, Rare Card Carnival, and Sandy Beach Bash. Special carnivals would also come along every now and again, these being the Gold Gala, which increased the chances of gold cards dropping from the algebraic chest, Halloween and holiday festivals, dropping exclusive cards to those holidays, and finally the Obsidian Festival, which for the first time allowed black cards to drop from the algebraic chest, with an extremely slim chance to, of course. After all this talk about chests, let's actually explain what they were all about. Chests would occasionally drop in battle after defeating an opponent's creature, with a rarity system ranging from 1 to 5 stars, this being the card's rarity. 1-star cards were cool cards, 2 stars nice cards, 3 stars rare cards, 4 stars very rare cards, and 5 stars being the coveted algebraic rare cards. Chests could also be purchased in the shop, these being the cool chest costing 10,000 coins to open, and the algebraic chest costing 3 gems to open. Both chests are able to drop cards from any rarity, but the algebraic chest guarantees a card of rare or better. Players could then take these cards and assemble decks worthy of defeating every opponent they faced. Cards could also be used as crafting materials, allowing you to use weaker cards to make stronger ones. The gameplay of the Card Wars app is fairly similar to the way it's depicted in the episode, with a few changes to make it more video game friendly of course. After spinning to see who goes first, the battle begins. This game works on a magic points system, where each player starts with 2 magic points on their first turn, and then increases by 1 on every subsequent turn. Cards then cost a certain amount of magic to play, ranging from 0 to 5. There are 3 different kinds of cards: creatures, spells, and buildings. After playing as many cards as they like, the player can then enter the battle phase. A spinner appears on the screen and the player must time it to land in one of these green areas, allowing the attack to work properly. Missing and landing in the red negates the attack, but landing in the lime green area initiates a perfect attack, dealing double damage. The spinner starts out nice and slow in the early quest levels, but speeds up deeper into quest mode, and is maxed out during Deck Wars and the Daily Dungeons of Doom. If a lane is unprotected, meaning there isn't a creature in the lane, the player can attack the hero directly. After reducing a hero's health to 0, the battle is won and you're officially the cool guy. But of course, what would a Card Wars video game be without flooping? Each creature card has a floop ability, which costs a differing amount of magic points to activate. These abilities range in usefulness, but can create some pretty evil effects, such as Camera Guy over here. And released just 1 year later on June 18th, 2015, was the one and only paid expansion to the game, the Fiona and Cake expansion. This added a new quest mode containing 19 new levels to enjoy, new cards and heroes, and a new card rarity, the pink cards. These could be earned from a new daily event where you had to find and defeat Treasure Cat on the map. Doing so would earn you a pink card. I didn't actually play this expansion as a kid, but looking at it now I wish I did. The new cards and the fact that it gives you more levels to play would have been so cool. Overall, I think Kung Fu Factory did an extremely stellar job at taking the concept of Card Wars and creating a game out of it. As you probably guessed with me gushing over every detail, I absolutely ate this game up as a kid. I still recall holidays where I'd do basically nothing else except play this game. I even placed in the top 10 one time during a Deck Wars event, earning myself this gold card. After the success of the episode and the newly released app, Cartoon Network teamed up with Cryptozoic Entertainment this time to create the Card Wars trading card game. This first wave of cards was a series of collector's packs, containing 2 decks with the theme being 2 Adventure Time characters facing off in a game of Card Wars. In release order, these collector's packs were Finn vs Jake, Beamo vs Lady Rainicorn, Princess Bubblegum vs Lumpy Space Princess, Ice King vs Marceline, Lemon Grab vs Gunter, and Fiona vs Cake. There's also 3 more being released in 2026 as a part of Cryptozoic's recent Kickstarter campaign, these being Flame Princess vs Fern, Peppermint Butler vs Magic Man, and Prismo vs the Lich. The gameplay of the Card Wars TCG is most similar to the Card Wars app we just talked about, with a couple of changes to make things easier. For starters, you start with 2 magic points each turn and never get any more than that, so cards can only have a cost between 0 and 2. Battling is the same with a lane-based system, with you having to reduce your opponent's HP from 25 to 0 to claim victory. And just a couple of months later, on April 23rd, 2014, Cryptozoic released a set of Card Wars booster packs called the For the Glory set. This set contained 107 new cards designed to modify the already existing collector's packs. I've got the re-release version of the set here from the 2023 Kickstarter, and it's really cool to see just how many of these cards were from the original Card Wars app originally. Their text and magic costs adjusted for the TCG, of course. These cards are genuinely so cool to own. I wish I had them around the time I was super into Card Wars, but that won't stop me collecting them now. The sheer amount of art they made for some of these newer cards not based on the episode or the app are fascinating to look at as well. Yeah, I'm just as surprised as you on this one. After doing research for this video, I discovered a 6-part comic series by Boom Studios, with the first issue being launched on July 15th, 2015. This series was titled Adventure Time with Fiona and Cake, Card Wars, and follows the story of Cake taking Lumpy Space Prince's spot in the big upcoming Card Wars tournament, as he was defeated by what they call the Floop Master. After battling her way through the tournament, Cake finally faces off against the Floop Master, who turns out to be Prince Gumball. Turns out he enjoys signing up for Card Wars tournaments and beating his opponents with the mathematically fastest and most efficient strategy, so basically using a quick kill deck. Fiona then throws one of Cake's torn cards into the crowd, the Lonely Panda, and wins the battle with it. I quite honestly had no idea about this comic before researching this video, but I think it's pretty fun. The artwork is really nice, and while the story is a little basic, I think that it's a fun spin-off that fans of Card Wars will enjoy. If you want to read this comic series yourself, I'll leave a link to the website where I read it in the description. The issues are on the shorter side though, as indicated by how short the segment is. The next appearance of Card Wars was a very brief cameo in the episode Wake Up from Season 6, Episode 1. Finn and Jake visit Prismo in the Time Room and we can see him and Cosmic Owl playing a game of Card Wars. Cosmic Owl then asks Finn and Jake if they want to play, to which they say no, and the episode moves along. However, the next major appearance of Card Wars wouldn't be until July 7th, 2016, with the release of Season 8, Episode 11, Daddy-Daughter Card Wars. This episode follows Jake and his daughter Charlie as they embark on a sailing trip to the 59th Card Wars Doubles Classic. After hearing the mention of Card Wars, BMO just straight up yeets themselves off the boat. Remember, they don't play such games with Jake. The main theme of this episode is Jake trying to let go of his 20s, where in a fit of rage after losing to his Card Wars rival, Grand Prix, he swore off tournament play completely. This gets brought up again when Jake and Charlie arrive at the venue and get immediately locked in conversation with Grand Prix, who is with Jake's ex, Monica. Jake and Charlie win the first game of doubles, however Charlie reminds Jake that he wagered one of his bones for just one game of Card Wars, so she leaves him, forcing Jake to warp his body into the shape of her to play the next match. After winning the next match, but in a disrespectful manner, Jake panics and wonders if he'll ever be able to let go of his 20s being represented in the mirror by his younger self. Charlie then returns and forces Jake's immature 20s out of him. They then challenge Monica and Grand Prix, but lose in spectacular fashion. However, Jake is finally able to let go of his anger, shaking hands with his rival Grand Prix, and finally burying his 20s. I hadn't seen this episode in a super long time before making this video, but honestly the whole letting go of your past theming I thought was really well done. I came for the Card Wars, but took away a really nice perspective on growing up and evolving beyond your years. Following the release of Daddy-Daughter Card Wars just 6 days later on July 13th, 2016, came Card Wars Kingdom, the sequel to the first mobile game. Full disclosure on this one, I hadn't actually played this game before making this video, so I don't have nearly the perspective or experience I had on the first game. Apologies in advance if I get some things wrong or don't have a perfect grasp of the game. Card Wars Kingdom immediately establishes that this isn't like the first game at all, it's a completely new take on it. Instead of the lane-based system in the first game, Card Wars Kingdom works off the rules from the Season 4 episode, where defeating all of your opponent's creatures is what wins you the game and awards you with the title of Cool Guy. Once again you start with 2 magic points, with the total going up by 1 each turn after your first. Now there's no attack phase, but an attack cost for each of your creatures, meaning it's up to you whether or not you attack on your turn. Attacking successfully also allows you to draw a card from that particular creature's pool. Each creature has a different pool of cards available, so you can plan around hopefully getting the specific card that you need. Honestly, I'm a big fan of this combat style. Of course, I'm very biased towards the first game because that's the one I spent the most time playing, but this system is really cool. I love that it feels even more strategic than the first game. Other features of this game is the Laboratory, where you can boost the stats of your creature cards using Cake, which is dropped from chests in battle. The Treehouse, where you can manage your decks. The Shop, pretty self-explanatory there. The Post Office for receiving mail and recruiting helper creatures. Helper creatures are creatures you can borrow from other players for a match to make things a little bit easier. The Treasure Cave for unlocking chests to gain new cards, and the final building you unlock, the Museum. The Museum is where you can see all the creatures you've either fought against or currently own. Think of it as the Card Wars Pokédex. In terms of card rarity, this game has simplified it a bit, with only 3 different card rarities now as opposed to the original game's 5. These 3 rarities being cool cards, rare cards, and algebraic cards. Overall, I think this is a brilliant continuation of Card Wars, and I'm sure countless people who played this game absolutely adored it. While I didn't actually play it at all when it first came out, I can respect the changes it brought to Card Wars games. Also following on from the airing of Daddy-Daughter Card Wars was a whole new set of cards for the TCG, the Card Wars Doubles Tournament Pack. This pack includes 4 decks to allow for the new doubles format that the set introduced, these new decks being Jake, Charlie, Monica, and Grand Prix. The lane system works the same as in the standard game mode, however, now the lanes are split diagonally like this, so each player can choose to attack either one of their opponents. Your teammate is then directly opposite you, so you can't attack them. And there's a new card type, the Teamwork cards. There's one of these per deck in the Doubles Tournament Pack, and these cards are played and then remain on the field until you decide to play another one, in which case the current one goes to the discard pile. As the name would imply, these cards are a benefit to both you and your teammate, so it makes sense that you only get one of these in your deck. I really like this expansion. Of course, finding 3 other people willing to play Card Wars with you is going to be tough, but I love that there's a new element of teamwork to the game, where previously you would have just been at each other's throats. I really wish we got more of these though, because as it stands, these 4 decks are the only ones to contain the teamwork cards, meaning you can play doubles with the decks from the collector's packs, but they aren't as fine-tuned for doubles play as these are. Unfortunately, the next Card Wars news wouldn't be good news. On December 19th, 2019, both the original Card Wars app and Card Wars Kingdom were made unavailable for download, with the service for the game being officially shut off on January 28th, 2020. Players that stuck around and kept the apps installed would be showered in gems to thank them for playing. Card Wars 1 players could still enjoy the game in airplane mode, but couldn't access any of the online features. But sadly, Card Wars Kingdom players weren't quite so lucky, as even if you still have the app or have it saved and previously downloaded on your device, it gets stuck at the first loading screen almost immediately. And finally, the very last mention of Card Wars was in a TV miniseries called Adventure Time Distant Lands, specifically in the first episode, BMO, airing on June 25th, 2020. In this special we can see a very brief scene where Mr. M challenges Y5 to a game of hologram Card Wars. The experiment conducted in the lab at the same time goes wrong however, and Y5 is forced to play the wrong card, and loses the game. But we can't end this video on a sad note, so here's some cool things that have been happening that really proves that the future of Card Wars is bright. While both the Card Wars apps may have been shut down, the fans have been working hard in order to preserve and make these games playable again. I'll leave some links in the description for the Card Wars Kingdom Revival project, which is how I got footage for this video, and the Card Wars Obsidian Edition project, which is a fan mod of the original Card Wars app which adds some much needed quality of life improvements, like giving you 1 gem after every battle you win instead of just after 3-starring a level, giving you way more opportunities to open the algebraic chests. And on the front of the physical Card Wars TCG, Cryptozoic, the original company behind the first prints of Card Wars, has run 2 extremely successful Kickstarter campaigns. The first one being for the 10-year anniversary of Card Wars, launched on November 16th, 2023. This Kickstarter was all about reprinting the old cards, while also giving you this awesome collector's storage box with tuck boxes to organize everything in. I mainly just got the Doubles Tournament reprint as I didn't previously own it, the For the Glory booster collection, and this awesome playmat. And most recently, Cryptozoic released their next Kickstarter campaign, this time being called Turning Up the Heat, on January 29th, 2025. This one introduced new gameplay features, much to the delight of fans. This included a new faction and landscape, the Lava Flats. These cards can also inflict a new damage type, Burn Damage, represented by these new burn tokens. There's also a new co-op game mode for Card Wars, called the Darklands expansion. In this game mode you play against a pre-built deck of curses and Darklands creatures, controlled by one of these Overlord cards. In addition to that, we get a whole new selection of Kickstarter exclusive cards, new playmats, a new booster collection, and the best part, Big BMO. Estimated delivery is December this year, and I for one cannot wait for my items to arrive. And that's it, that's the current history of Card Wars. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'm trying to cut down on the amount of time between uploads, so hopefully this one has turned out alright. If I've inspired you to take a look at Card Wars, I'd recommend either the Card Wars Obsidian Edition project or the Card Wars Kingdom Revival project that I mentioned earlier. And hey, keep an eye out for more Cryptozoic Kickstarters in the future. I've got a good feeling this won't be the last we see of Card Wars, especially considering they raised over $1 million on the most recent Kickstarter. And also just a few quick thank yous at the end here. Thank you to Dream Jelly for shouting out my Club Penguin minigames video. That was extremely kind of you to do. Definitely go check out that channel, it's fantastic. Thank you to the father of Card Wars, Phone Cats, for being cool with me including some of your old footage in this video. And finally, thank you to all of you for watching this video. This is the second time I've tried this style of video, so hopefully it's paid off. And remember, do not do drugs, kids, it is bad. See you later everyone, bye bye.
Making a video on the history of Card Wars, use my old video as footage, credit you on screen in description. Bro, I am like the father of Card Wars. So yeah, that's cool. Shout out to Card Wars, put this in the video. Anybody remember anything from Card Wars? The one-turn kill deck with Camera Guy, Which Way,